Um, Thank you, Di, for the invitation tonight to launch this very special forum. Of course, when you're in the sort of position I am, people write speech notes for you, and I'll use them a little bit. But as I sat here, I was drawn back in time to something I think is really relevant for tonight, so I just want to spend a moment on that. Back in 1983, which is going to date me, I became one of the first equal employment opportunity directors in the Australian Public Service when the legislation was passed, and there was a huge task to do to transport so many people who thought it was a great idea but it wouldn't really have any impact on the ground. And even some of those people who were targeted by the legislation who thought they'd managed to get there on their own, and why couldn't everyone else? And seeing and hearing about the start of your journey tonight here reminded me so much of me starting out on that journey with equal employment opportunity, which after all was contained to the workplace. So you've got a much broader thing to think about, and about the trials and tribulations of taking that wonderful thing somewhere, and about the most important lesson I learnt through all of that, which I think is important and may seem trite, but it was that I never lost my sense of humour. And in the days when things seem tough, that may well be the thing that gets you through. So I offer that, as I say, it may sound trite, but I think when the tough get going, when the going gets tough, the tough get going by keeping their sense of humour. So I hope that helps at some stage, even if only in a small way. I am wearing two hats tonight. First of all, as Di said, I'm in the position of Executive Director Operations in DHS because the bushfires have taken so many of our people to focus their efforts that I've come in to backfill, and it was a cruel, cruel thing that happened to me because I arrived just in time for swine flu to hit. So that's been my job for the last little while. Nevertheless, there are things that have to continue, and one of those is a commitment to things like the Human Rights Charter and our efforts in that area. I am normally, however, Regional Director for the Southern Region, and in terms of the practical application of human rights, I thought it might be just useful to run through a few of the things we've done to try and embed a focus on human rights in our business. So, we have, of course, done a range of the normal things one would expect. So there have been training opportunities. We always introduce new initiatives with training. But we have tried to think about what the elements are in terms of embedding human rights. So we've got the legal and compliance obligations, obviously. As you said, we've got policy development and embedding systems and service delivery implications. And for me, I guess it's always at that third point that the rubber really hits the road and we make a real success of it, or we don't. So we've thought about how training needs to differ for people like legal staff and hospital senior counsels, people who work in juvenile justice, people who work in disability, people who offer housing services, and those who are involved in the statutory child protection system. What does the Human Rights Charter mean for those people in their day-to-day business? We've also done more generic charter training for more than 2,000 staff, including those who are developing policy so that they can think about what human right means in relation to policy development. But of course, one of the things is how do we make it interesting for people and get them to focus on this? So one of the different things we did this time was to develop an e-learning tool. And people got a chance to read about what the Human Rights Charter meant and then do a bit of a quiz. And no one was out to have a go at them if they only got 6 out of 10. In fact, they got to answer it again if they didn't get it right. Surprisingly, some people didn't work that out and submitted their score as 6 out of 10. If they'd just worked at it, they would have got 10 out of 10. But it was a bit of fun, and it's now on people's learning records that they've been through this program, and we're starting to use our online people management records to start to now say to people, we want you to record this because it's an important part of your development. But it is only a start, of course. So, but it does mean that more than 8,000 people of our people have completed the program, and that's 8,000 people who have been touched by what's encapsulated in the Human Rights Charter. A good start. Of course, we're not starting from scratch, and there have been things underway in the department for a while. In Southern Metro, for me, some of the really exciting stuff about how we get human rights on the ground, a couple of projects I'll talk to you about. They're on the edge at the moment, but I've come today from a really exciting day-long, I guess, Strategic Futures workshop with the executive in the department, where this is the sort of stuff we're talking about making our mainstream business. And the first piece of work is with the cities of KC and Cardinia, which of course are facing immense growth at the moment. And we've got a project underway to look at how we can get better approaches to human services provision by supporting the participation and involvement of the locals in those areas in identifying the services they think are important for them and organised in the way they believe is best for them. And what we've found, it's just really exciting to go down there and be part of that piece of work, because people residing in those rapidly growing communities can articulate clearly what they think are the health and wellbeing supports they need now and into the future, and how they want their communities to be created and developed so that they are places where they wish to remain living. And that's very exciting work to be involved in. We're not doing to or for, we're doing with. And that's a very different way to think about our business. We've got a similar project in St Kilda, where people who live in rooming and boarding houses through no fault of their own have come to be seen in not too good a light by some of the residents and traders, and we're working with that community to identify where it wants to be in the future and hopefully encourage far greater social inclusion for people who would otherwise not be an active part of the future of that community. So, Di mentioned our ambassadors. That's another strategy. We had 140 ambassadors volunteer across the department, from all across the department. They've been trained, they've been encouraged to have fun designing and facilitating events and activities, once again, so that people remember what this is about. So we've had things like morning teas. We've had, in fact, in the south, we had a photo competition where we asked people to take a photo that described how they felt about human rights, and we had winners and very excited people about that particular competition. We've had e-blasts with local information about human rights, DVD with staff vox pops, treasure hunts and many more initiatives, all generated by the ambassadors, the champions of human rights charter in our local workplaces. And of course, we've done what everyone does and developed a website. Our latest initiative, which I'm very proud to be part of, is in the form of awarding 16 scholarships to departmental staff to participate in the Graduate Certificate of Applied Human Rights Education. So combined with their passion, we're hoping that the Action Research Project that will be undertaken in this work will actually result in the department having a more skilled a workforce in relation to this particular issue, and a workforce that we can call on to help spread the message more broadly. So in finishing, I'd just like to say we've got a long way to go. I know what the journey's like in something like this, and I know we'll learn a lot as we go. But I'm confident there's a great deal of commitment where I work, and as you will no doubt show for some time to come in what you're doing, and that this forum is a great opportunity to not only learn from each other, but to support each other in what can be difficult and challenging at times. So I wish you all the very best for it, and it's with great pleasure that I launch this forum.